If you were allowed to eat only one animal for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? Some people would answer cow, some would answer sheep, some thought deer, duck, or fish. If I answer now, you will never know the surprising truth behind it. What was the secret? For thousands of years, humans have been eating the meat of different animals in the world. In some places, cow is considered the most delicious. In others, sheep. In others, deer is considered a royal dish. And in others, sea fish are considered the most valuable. But if the whole world were asked the same question, which animal has the most delicious meat, would everyone give the same answer? Probably not, because this question is not as easy as it sounds. To find the answer to this question, a young American food journalist, Jack, begins a journey to different countries of the world. He had only one goal: to find the most delicious meat in the world. His first stop was the American state of Texas. There, he saw long lines outside the big steakhouses. People were waiting for hours to eat the most expensive steak. When he asked a famous chef, "Why do people spend so much money on just one piece of meat?" the chef held up a piece of meat, smiled, and said, "The taste does not only depend on which animal the meat comes from, but also on which part of the animal it comes from." Jack was to hear this. He had always thought that if the animal was the same, then every part of it would taste almost the same. But the reality was much more surprising. The chef explained that some parts of the animal are very tender, some are more juicy, and some have fat in such a way that the taste increases many times over after cooking. That is why the price of different parts of the same animal varies greatly. Some parts are sold at normal prices, and some are so expensive that only high-end restaurants include them on their menu. Jack was lost in thought. If there is so much difference within the same animal, then how much difference will there be between the meat of different animals? A storm of questions had arisen in his mind. Is beef really the most delicious? Or lamb? Or are there animals in the world whose meat ordinary people may never taste? In the next few weeks, Jack was going to travel to Europe, Japan, Australia, and other countries. Each country was making a different claim. Every nation said that their favorite meat was the best in the world. But there could only be one truth. And to reach this truth, Jack had to understand not only taste, but also science, history, and different cultures. Little did he know that during this journey, he would also learn about a meat that could cost hundreds of dollars just for a plate. What kind of meat was that? And is the most expensive meat really the most delicious? We will try to answer this surprising question. The next morning, Jack left Texas for his new destination. The same question kept running through his mind. If there really is the most delicious meat in the world, what animal does it come from? A few days later, he arrived in Japan. There, at a famous restaurant, he met a chef who had spent his entire life researching the taste of meat. Jack repeated the same question. What do you think is the most delicious meat in the world? The chef smiled, but he didn't answer right away either. He placed 3 different plates on the table. The first plate was ordinary beef, the second was lamb, and the third plate was a meat that cost many times more than the first 2 plates. Jack tasted all 3. The first meat was good. The second one felt more fragrant than the first. But the third plate tasted completely different. The meat was so tender that it almost melted in your mouth. Jack looked at the chef in surprise. What animal is this meat from? The chef replied, "The animal is definitely important, but the real secret is not only in the animal." Jack was surprised. Then what is the real secret? The chef took him into the kitchen. He showed him pieces of different types of meat and said, "Look, there are many different parts in the body of the same cow. Some parts move all the time, so their meat is relatively tough, while some parts are used very rarely, so their meat is considered more tender, juicy, and valuable." Jack realized for the first time that the world of taste is much more complex than he thought. But the journey was not over yet. A few days later, he arrived in France. There, a famous chef told him, "If you're just asking what the tastiest meat is, you'll never get an answer." Jack asked in surprise. "Why?" the chef replied. "Because flavor isn't just made up of meat. The breed of animal, its diet, age, the cut of the meat, the method of cooking, and even how long it's been preserved. All of these things change the flavor." This answer was completely new to Jack. He began to realize that perhaps there isn't one meat in the world that everyone considers the best. Still, one question still lingered in his mind. If the best chefs in the world were forced to choose only one meat, which one would they choose? To find the answer to this question, Jack began the final leg of his journey. This time, he was headed to a country where the world's most expensive steaks, rare meats, and international food competitions were held. And there, for the first time, he was going to find out which meat the world's best chefs value the most. A few days later, Jack had reached the final stage of his journey. By now, he had met several famous chefs from America, Japan, and Europe. Each country had a different claim. Each chef had his own argument. But Jack was still waiting for this one question. What is the most delicious meat in the world? In this search, he arrived at a global chef chef conference, where the best chefs in the world were at the same table. Jack picked up the microphone and asked the same question. If you all had to choose only one meat, which animal would you choose? There was silence for a few moments. Then a famous chef answered. There can't be just one answer to this question. Jack was surprised. The chef explained, if the goal is tender meat, there is one choice. If the goal is deep flavor, there is another. If health is important, the answer will change. And if it is just a question of steak, then the choice will be something else. Now, for the first time, Jack realized that he had probably been asking the wrong question all along. The real question was not, which is the tastiest meat? Rather, the real question was, for what purpose? Another chef, placing different cuts of meat on the table, said, beef is so popular in the world because it is made into dozens of different cuts, such as ribeye, filet, sirloin, and T-bone. Each cut has its own taste, tenderness, and uses. A French chef said, lamb meat is loved for its unique aroma and flavor. A Japanese chef said, if the fat in the meat is spread like fine vein, then every bite feels more succulent. Jack now understood that taste is not just the name of the animal, but the combination of the part of the meat, the animal's diet, the breed, the age, and the cooking method. After the conference was over, he went outside. He opened his notebook and reread the question from the first day of the trip. Which animal has the most delicious meat? He wrote a new sentence under this question. No one meat in the world is the most delicious for everyone. However, if we look at global popularity, steak culture, and the choice of professional chefs, beef is one of the world's leading choices, while lamb, goat, deer, fish, and other meats also have their own importance in different regions. Jack closed his diary with a smile. The answer he had traveled thousands of miles to find was not a word, but a reality. Taste is not just about language, but also about culture, tradition, habit, and the art of cooking. Sometimes, the most interesting answer is the one that has several correct aspects. That's why millions of people around the world call different meats their favorite, and each has their own compelling reason. In the world of taste, there is no single winner, but rather, every culture has its own masterpiece. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of this entire journey.